balancing truth, principles, and perspective. This is the Equalizer Podcast.
Anarchy, chaos, it is not. Freedom, perhaps, but fragile, always.
That line in Yoda's voice captures a truth humanity's been wrestling with for centuries. The dream of absolute freedom and the danger that comes with it. Today on The Equalizer, we're taking on anarchism. Not as a caricature of chaos and Molotov cocktails, but as a real political vision, a world where power, hierarchy, and coercion are abolished, and all that remains is voluntary cooperation between free individuals. Anarchism is a philosophy built around a simple, radical idea. People can govern themselves. No kings, no presidents, no corporate masters, no one giving orders that others must obey. Instead, communities organize themselves through mutual aid, consensus, and cooperation, with decisions made locally, not imposed from above. It promises something beautiful: freedom without domination. A world where every person has agency, where power flows from the bottom up. But as with so many beautiful ideas, the closer we get to realizing it, the more fragile it becomes. Anarchism emerged in the 19th century, a direct response to the brutality of industrial capitalism and state control. Factories swallowed lives. Governments crushed dissent, and thinkers like Pierre-Joseph Proudhon and Paris Bakunin said enough. Proudhon declared property is theft. Bakunin warned that the state means domination, and all domination is slavery. They rejected both capitalism's greed and Marxism's bureaucratic centralization, believing that neither freedom nor equality could exist where authority ruled. And when the world began to crumble under war, poverty, and revolution, their ideas stepped off the page and into history. 3 times humanity tried to live without masters. After France's defeat in the Franco-Prussian War, workers seized control of Paris. They formed councils, opened cooperative bakeries, and tried to build a city run by its people. For 72 days it worked. Bread was distributed freely. Elected councils debated policy. Citizens lived without rulers. Then came the army. When the government returned, 20,000 Parisians were killed in the streets. Liberty had lived and died in less than 3 months. It was the first great experiment in modern anarchism. Brave, but brittle. During Spain's Civil War, anarchist militias took over Catalonia. They collectivized farms and factories, nearly 70% of the land, and worker-run industries thrived. Production rose by 20% in some sectors. For a brief moment, liberty and productivity coexisted, but Franco's fascist forces and even rival socialist factions saw that freedom as a threat. By 1939, Catalonia fell. The dream of anarchism was buried beneath the rubble of war. Freedom, once again, devoured by force. In southern Mexico, a new kind of rebellion took root. The Zapatista Army of National Liberation, mostly indigenous farmers, rose up against global trade deals that had erased their livelihoods. Instead of seizing power, they built autonomous communities, caracols, governed through consensus and cooperation. By 2025, roughly 300,000 people lived under that model. They ran schools, healthcare, and coffee cooperatives, generating around $10 million a year in revenue. They've survived for decades against state pressure and cartel violence, but poverty persists. Average income hovers around $2,000 a year. Freedom exists, but it's fragile, precarious, always one step from collapse. Each of these moments shared the same heartbeat, a moral conviction that people should rule themselves. But here's the problem. Without some structure, some semblance of order, liberty erodes. The same decentralization that protects freedom makes defense and coordination nearly impossible. External enemies exploit that weakness. Internal factions tear it apart. John Adams once wrote, "Our Constitution was made for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other." He wasn't defending a theocracy. He was reminding us that self-governance requires virtue and discipline, and those are fragile things too. From my perspective, liberty is the moral high ground. It is the condition that makes all other virtues possible. Anarchism pursues that ideal completely. It tries to live freedom, not just preach it. But it does so without guardrails. It assumes people will choose good, cooperate naturally, and resist the temptations of power. History tells us otherwise. The founders of the American Republic didn't trust unchecked virtue. They built a system of laws and balances because they knew human nature bent towards control. That's the tension at the heart of anarchism. The purer the freedom, the weaker the foundation. Anarchism remains one of the purest visions of liberty ever conceived, and one of the least sustainable. It rises from moral outrage against tyranny, but too often collapses beneath the weight of its own idealism. As Yoda said, freedom, perhaps, but fragile, always. Next time on The Equalizer, we'll put another system on the scale. Fascism, order through power. Until then, I'm Evan. Thanks for listening and keep your mind in balance.